Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we will continue with Salesforce Developer Interview Question and Answer series. Today, we will discuss part 6 video where I will be continuing with Apex triggers. It is a continuation video. If you have not watched previous videos of this series, then I strongly recommend you to watch those videos first. So let's get started. Apex triggers. So basically, before even going into this topic, Apex triggers, I just want to highlight few points for you to give the background to understand triggers better. Back in the days, like few years ago, triggers were very heavily used. Okay, because at that time we were not having powerful tools like flows. Okay, we were having workflow rules, which is very basic kind of logic we can apply using workflow rules. But then Salesforce came up with process builders. Okay, process builders were much better than workflow rules in terms of doing a little bit more, but it is having its own problems. That is the reason Salesforce decided to get rid of both workflows and process builders. And then Salesforce started a very powerful tool called flows. Lightning flows sometimes refers it to as. And since flows came into the picture, and it is so powerful that recently the usage of, I would say, triggers are getting lesser and lesser and lesser. Okay, so only if it is something which flow cannot do, then only people are using triggers. So I would also suggest you to master flows. Okay, even though you are a developer, but it is expected from a developer to know flows very, very well. Okay, see what happens is if you have a task, okay, which needs to be done by a administrator, like let's say for example flow, if there is a task which needs to be completed using flow and it is assigned to an administrator can anytime tell that he can hands up saying that okay, this is a little bit complex, I'm not able to do it. Okay, then eventually it comes down to a developer. Okay, so developer has to be very proficient in flows. Okay, don't think that flow is a config, and that's why as a developer we are not supposed to know that. No, which is wrong. So you should know flows or lightning flows very, very well. Okay, and if something cannot be done with flows, then you can obviously start using triggers. Okay, so this is the background. Let's get started. So the very first question we have is, what is a trigger? So Apex triggers allows us to perform custom actions before or after changes to Salesforce records, okay, such as insertion, updates, or deletion. See, triggers are not a very new concept. It is there. This trigger concept is there in any of the databases. Like, if you go to Oracle, if you go to Microsoft SQL Server, or if you go to IBM DB2, right? These are the famous or the biggest database tools we had. So every database tool had this concept called triggers. So similarly, Salesforce also does have. So what is the idea behind triggers is, see, triggers, if someone is trying to insert, update, or delete a record, before doing that action or even after doing that action, I want to perform some more logic. Okay, before updating a record, I want to do something. Right after updating the record, I want to do something else. Okay, so that is the main reason behind triggers. So what it says, Apex triggers allows us to perform custom actions before or after the changes to the Salesforce records. Okay, records is important over here, such as insertion, updation, or deletion. I want to perform something on these three things. Okay, insertion, updation, or deletion. Okay, Apex triggers is an Apex code. It is very much similar to an Apex code, okay, that executes before or after changes to the Salesforce record, such as insertion, updation, or deletion. So it is similar to an Apex code, but there are few, I would say, methods which will only run in trigger. You cannot write those in an Apex class. Okay, we'll come to that point. But yes, almost similar kind of language Salesforce uses for triggers. Okay, explain the different types of triggers. Okay, so there are different types of triggers basically. So there are two types of triggers in Salesforce. One is before triggers. Okay, what do you mean by before trigger? It name suggests like it is used to update or validate records values before they are saved into the database. Okay, anything which is done before it is saving into the database are nothing but before triggers. Okay, anything if you want to do after the updating of the database or saved into the database, it's called as after triggers. So after triggers, it is used to access field values that are set by the systems, okay, such as record IDs or last modified date field. Because these record IDs and or system fields, basically like record IDs or last modified by date fields, these are only automatically generated on the record when the record is saved. Okay, so that is the reason if you want to access such things, we have to depend on after triggers. Okay, there is one more reason why we should use after trigger, and to affect changes in other records. Okay, like updating the records of same objects or other objects. The records that fires the after triggers are read only. So the records which fires the after triggers are read only. We cannot edit that, update that. Okay, generally after triggers are also majority of the time is used when you want to perform some logic on the other objects. Okay, for example, you have saved an account, okay, and then you want to perform some logic to do something on contacts objects, means which is a different object. Okay, so if you're not aware, like if I have to go to the little bit more basics of trigger can be done per object. Okay, account is an object, I can write a trigger on account. Okay, contact is an object, I can write a trigger on contact, right? So for example, now I'm writing a trigger on contact, but I want to after the updation or insertion of record in account, I want to update contact as well. So what I will do, I will write a trigger on account. I will do whatever logic I have to perform over here and then insert that record in account object. And then I want to perform something on the contact object also. Okay. So at that time I use after triggers to perform that logic on contact object. Okay, so the next question is, what are the different types of trigger events in Salesforce? This is very, very important. Okay, so the very first event is before. So since we have discussed just now, like, before triggers and after triggers. So what all we can do with before? Okay, before insert can be done, before update can be done, before delete is one of the event, before undelete. I have deliberately added this because this doesn't exist. Okay, so I have seen a lot of interviews, candidates used to tell simply before insert, before update, before delete, before undelete. Okay, don't do that. So before undelete is not there. Okay, and after insert, after update, after delete, and after undelete. Okay, see, think about it, just a common sense. Before undelete, right, we cannot do anything because system doesn't know before undelete, right? So after undelete we can do. Okay, so the note, before undelete event does not exist. This is what I want to tell. So if I want to go a little bit more deeper on before undelete, so do you know how undelete is done in Salesforce, right? So undelete, for example, if I delete a record, it will go into the recycle bin. Okay, so that means it is out of that context. For example, I'm deleting an account record. Account record I have deleted and it has gone from that account object and it is in the recycle bin. Okay, recycle bin is, maybe Salesforce has created some object, we don't know the name of that object as well, right? So if you want to go and click undelete on recycle bin, that time account don't know. Okay, so we cannot write undelete event on account. Okay, so that is the reason before undelete is not there. But after undelete, you will ask why we can do after undelete. After undelete, what we can do, what will happen is, see, we have deleted, it has gone to recycle bin. In recycle bin, we will have an option to undelete it. As soon as we undelete, it will come to account object again. Account, the record will be added back to the account. So that time we can perform some logic. Okay, so that is the reason after undelete is there. So now after undeleting, the record comes into account object. So we will have, the trigger will have control over it. Okay, that is the reason we have after undelete event. Next question, can you write trigger syntax and an example? So normally people will ask you to check, how you write the trigger syntax an example as well. Okay, so how do you do that? So you can write a trigger like trigger name on object. Okay, so you can write some name on object. As I said, right, it will be per object, so it could be account, and here we have to write triggers: before event, before, after, or whatnot. Okay, so and then here code blocks comes in, and then bracket opens and bracket close. Okay, bracket opens and then code block comes and then bracket closes. This is just the syntax. So where trigger underscore events can be a comma separated list of one or more events. So in here in this we can write before insert, comma, before update, comma, before whatever 7 trigger events we have, right? We can write all of those, right? Based on what we are using. If you're not using all in the trigger, then you don't have to write everything. Just write the events which you want to use. Okay. So here is the example. Example is my account trigger is I'm giving the name on account. I'm writing this trigger on account object. So, and also I'm using the events before insert, before update, and then I'm writing the code here. Okay. Next question is, what are trigger context variable? This is very important question. Okay. Normally people will ask you, what are these trigger context variables? Okay. All triggers define implicit. So as I said, right, initially that, there are some, even though Apex trigger is a code like Apex, but there is some code which you cannot write in a normal class, like context variables. You cannot use this context variables in a class, because this is very specific to the trigger. Okay, so all triggers define implicit variables that allows developers to access runtime context. Okay, so these variables are contained in a system.trigger class. Okay, so this is available only in group. So these are the few context variables. Okay, is insert, is update, is delete, is undelete, is before, is after. Okay, there is one more thing called is executing. So what it does is, right, is executing returns true if the current context of the Apex code is a trigger. Okay, not a Visualforce page or a web services or execute anonymous call. So if you want to find out that if the context is trigger, then we can use is executing. Is insert, it returns true if the trigger was fired due to an insert operation. Okay, from the Salesforce user interface, Apex, or the API. Similarly, it returns true when we are updating. It returns true when we are deleting. It returns true then when we are undeleting. Okay, is before means returns true if the trigger was fired before any record was saved. Okay, so if you are doing before, then this will return true. This will return true when it is after. I'll explain you a little bit more on this one, but just understand this context variables. As soon as someone asks you, you should simply start with is insert, is update, is delete, is undelete, is before, is after. Okay, and there are a few more like is new. Okay, new returns the list of new version of subject record. Okay, this is subject list is only available in insert. So trigger.new is available only on insert, update, and undelete triggers. Okay, newmap is also available only before update, after insert, after update, and after undelete. Don't worry about this. I will be explaining this here in a moment, where what is available or not. Okay, and trigger.old returns a list of old version of a record. Trigger.old map okay, and it is only available on update and delete triggers. It is not at all available on inserts. Okay, just bear in mind. Old map, a map of IDs to the old version of the record. So here you're listening, you're reading here. Okay, old version, new version. What is this old version and new version? Okay, so for example, I have opened a contact record. Okay, I've opened a contact. Okay, sorry, I have opened an account. I click on new button on the UI. Okay, and then I started writing or typing the new account, right? Account name of that company, and all the details, type, this, that, company, number of employees in the companies, and all those things. As soon as I hit the save, it goes into the trigger, and it is called as the new version of that. Okay, and then it is saved. Okay, so what happens is when we are trying to insert it, right, at that time it will have a new version. Okay, because it's a new version available, and old version is nothing but, for example, I'm doing update. okay, because old version doesn't available in is not available in insert, because at the time I'm entering, there is nothing related to okay, let me take my example. Okay, I'm entering a contact called Shfaq Muhammad, okay, first name and last name. So when I'm entering it for the first time, that is a new version. Okay, I'm entering, as soon as I click on save, it is a new version. But when this Ashfaq Muhammad contact is not at all there in Salesforce, then old version doesn't exist. Okay, so that is the reason it is only new version is only available on insert. Okay, old version returns a list of old version of the object. So now old version means which is already there in the database. Ashfaq Muhammad is not there in the database, that is why it is new version. Okay, so now my record is saved in the database like contact. Okay, now I want to update my phone number. Okay, so what happens is, update will trigger. Okay, I go to the same contact on the UI, and I click on my name contact, right, and then I click edit, and then I enter the phone number. Okay, so now I want to compare if old phone number, if there is nothing in the phone number before, then only I should allow them to enter the phone number, otherwise I should not allow. I mean, for just example. Okay, so what I can do, I can check, I can compare so whatever I'm updating will again become a new, okay, new version. Okay, whatever I'm entering now, Ashfaq Muhammad with the new contact mobile number becomes a new this thing. Okay, and when I'm saving it, it's a new version there. Okay, so when I'm updating it, right, I can check with the old version. Okay, I can check with the old version of my record, and then I can see, okay, this record is already having or does not have a mobile number, then I can save it. Okay, so similarly we have new map as well as old map. So I would suggest what you do is the best way to learn new map, old map, new, old. I can go on and on and on and explaining this. The best way to learn is, right, so try to open or try to create a new trigger, and then try to do debug debug logs. Try to write, sorry, not debug logs, system.debug, and then trigger.new. Okay, go in each like in before insert or before update, after insert, after update, right, just trigger.new, and trigger.new. Check where trigger.new is coming up, or if it is coming with which values, okay, in the debug logs. Okay, so that is the easiest way to learn what is available, what is not available in the trigger.new map, trigger.old map. Okay, so there are other context variables also available, like operation size, so returns an enum of a type system.trigger operation corresponding to the current operation. So possible values of the system.trigger operation enum are before insert, before update, before delete, after update, after delete, and after undelete. If you vary your programming logic based on the different types, consider using switch statement with different permutations of unique trigger execution enum states. Okay, so you can utilize this as well, operation. Okay, you can create a switch case, and then you can check if it is update, then perform this logic. If it is before insert, then perform this logic. Okay, so the last one is the size. So here, total number of records in a trigger invocation, both old and new, will be given in the size. Okay, so this is the sample trigger for trigger context variable. I will just try to explain it a little bit more, not the whole program. So we are not bothered about the program over here, but we are more bothered about the context variable. So very first thing you have to identify is this one, the events. So I have used all the events: before delete, before insert, before update, after delete, after insert, after update. I have just not used undelete over here. Okay, so here what I'm giving is context variable I'm using. If trigger.isBefore. Okay, if I want to do something in the before trigger, I can say that, okay, is trigger.isBefore. Okay, if I want to perform some logic, so before, it will automatically go over here, and then trigger.isDelete. And when I'm before deleting, okay, before deleting, I want to perform this logic. Okay, else it will go and perform this logic. If I am not deleting, like before inserting or before updating, it will perform this logic. Similarly, trigger.isInsert. Okay, trigger dot is insert. So as soon as I see that it is insert, I'm going to execute this program. Okay, otherwise I'm performing this program. Okay, so here like this one, right, is trigger dot is before, trigger dot is delete, or trigger dot is insert. Like this we can use and perform whatever logic we want to do. Okay, so here, so you have to be very careful, like, you know, if you're trying to use before delete, you're writing some logic in before delete and not declaring that event type over here. Okay, you're not at all writing before delete, so this will not work. Okay, so be careful here. So the next question is, what is the difference between trigger.new and trigger.old? I have already explained it a little bit, but let's see what is the difference. So trigger.new returns the list of the new version of the subject record, whereas the trigger.old returns a list of the old version of the S records. Okay, as I said, right? So when you're trying to insert, so whatever you're inserting is the new. Okay, when you and what will be there in old? Nothing will be there in old, because I am inserting a new record. But when you're updating, whatever you're currently updating will become trigger.new, and whatever is already there in the database is become trigger.old. Okay, so try this compulsory. So trigger.new is available in insert, update, and undelete triggers, whereas trigger.old is only available on update and delete triggers. Okay, what is the difference between trigger.new and trigger.newmap? Okay, you have heard about trigger.new, but trigger.newmap, what is that? To understand this, you should know the collections in Salesforce. Okay, what are the different collections we have? We have collections as sets, list, and map. Okay, so trigger.new always gives the list of records. Okay, trigger.newmap gives the map of the record. So if you don't know or know, map will always have key and the value. Okay, value could be the whole record, right? So new is just the list, the whole record, but in trigger.newmap it's the key and the complete record. Let's see. So trigger.new returns the list of the new version of the S record, S object record, whereas trigger.newmap returns the map of the IDs to the new version of the S records. Okay, so tell me if trigger.newmap is available on insert or not, before insert or not. Okay, so next question number 71, availability matrix for trigger.new, trigger.newmap, trigger.old map. Okay, let's see this. So even though I am giving you the complete matrix, but I would strongly suggest you to create a dummy or to create a trigger, okay, on account. Just do system.debug and pass on trigger.new there and see what happens in before insert. Okay, yeah, and similarly you can give all these four. Okay, go and give trigger.old and give this in the system.debug again in before insert. Give system.debug and write system.debug and trigger.newmap in before insert and see what happens. Similarly, write debug system.debug in the trigger and see old map. Okay, do one by one. Okay, first do for before insert. Okay, and understand carefully. Okay, what is happening when I am saving a record. Okay, new, or when I'm inserting a record, what is happening with all these values, whether I'm getting the trigger.new, trigger.old, trigger.newmap, and trigger.old map. Okay, so I was asking, so before insert trigger.new, okay, we have just learned about the difference between trigger.new and trigger.newmap. Even though trigger.new is available in before insert, but it is not available in trigger.newmap. The reason is, if you have listened to the earlier question carefully, new map always required an ID. Okay, but in before insert we will not be having an ID because we are about to create the record. So when you are about to create the record, there will be no ID. Okay, Salesforce will be generating the ID only after the creation of the record. So till this stage we have not received an ID there, hence we don't have trigger.new map in the before insert. Okay, so before update, okay, we have everything because we are just updating, right? We were just updating, means already one record is there. As I said, right, my example, Ashfaq Muhammad, phone number, right? So that record is already there in database. So you will have new also, you will have old record, because so new record will have my new phone number, right? Old record is which is already existing. Okay, new map will also be existing because it doesn't have ID. Okay, and then old map will also be existing. So before delete, we don't have in trigger.new. Trigger.old, yes. Trigger.newmap, no. Trigger.old map, yes. Okay, similarly we have this, so I don't want you to remember this, okay, but understand this, okay, what is there, what is not there. If it is not there, why it is not there, what is the reason it is not there. Okay, so try to write a program or a trigger and try to, as I said, system to debugs and see everything. Okay, all this, try to see what values you are getting, okay, in trigger.new, trigger.old, trigger.new map, trigger.old map. Cool. Okay, so that's all for this video. As I said, all the questions, most of the questions are referred from help.salesforce.com. Please go ahead and read it there as well. And I have also few of the videos I also refer to trailhead.salesforce.com. Thanks for watching. I hope this video helped you prepare for your Salesforce developer interview and crack your next job. If you have any questions which you want me to include in my videos, please post it in the comments below. Okay, and if you like this video, make sure to hit and subscribe to my YouTube channel right now. That way you don't miss the Salesforce interview question and answer videos like this one. Thank you. Thanks again.